If you have an interest in horses and love learning more about horses, the horse industry, teaching, or even managing your own horse business, then you're in the right place. We would love you to join us on our mission, which is to improve the lives of horses around the world through the education of riders, handlers, and trainers. So get comfortable, listen in, and enjoy.
Today's guest is Megan Jones. Megan was a silver medalist in the Beijing Games and also she won a team bronze at Aachen. She runs her own equestrian centre now at Hallmark Farm in South Australia. How are you today, Megan?
I'm very well, thank you.
Great. Megan, we often start off with a favourite inspirational quote or a favourite quote that you use when you're teaching. Have you got one for us?
Well, I was always told by my parents to just work really hard to make your best the best it can be. And I think that still applies now and applies to all riders, yeah.
And I think that's a really good quote coming from an Olympian too, because everyone wants to go to the Olympics and they think if they don't make it, they're not good enough. But, they're good enough in lots of other areas, and if they focus on being as good as they can be, then they've done their best.
Absolutely, and that's all you can do, is your best. No better than that. So, yeah.
And has there been a time when you've taught that to your students? Is that what you teach them as well?
Oh, all the time, I think also these days, I sound really old now with Facebook and social media, that kind of stuff. All the kids are exposed to what everybody else is doing, and then they pitch their own performance against other people all the time, more so than when I was a kid, and it could just send some of them crazy. I'm like, no, stop it. We just focus on your journey, your ride, and the best you can be, and ignore the rest of it. Yeah.
Yep. I like the way you said that. Focus on your journey, your ride. Yeah.
Mm.
Okay. Now, how did you start with horses? What were your first memory?
My first memory was being put on what felt like a horse the size of a giant gum tree when I was about 3 years old, I think. But I just being that high up and looking down, I actually had this really clear picture of looking down at my parents and feeling like I was literally in the sky. But I'm sure it was only about sort of 15 hands before I the horse. But that was the first thing. And then my parents moved to some land in Mount Barker when I was about 5 years old. And my mum went, oh, let's get a pony. And that's pretty much how it started. Okay.
And it's a long way from just getting a pony to riding in the Olympics, to, a world championship level, riding at that level. Had you always wanted to ride at that level, or was it just sort of one step after the other?
No, it kind of was. We had the world championships in Gawler in 1986, so I was not quite 10 years old when that happened.
Yes.
And I remember I started my Barbie camera. I'd got in a Barbie show bag from the Royal Show.
Yep.
And I ran around that cross-country course at the World Champs taking photos with my Barbie camera with no film in it all day, and left my parents and just was on my own and was just like gobsmacked at the side of the fences, and can just really clearly remember going, I want to do this. This is what I want to do. I want to ride for Australia and jump these fences. And that was just my goal. Like everyone said, what do you want to be when you grow up? I'm like, I want to win gold medals for Australia. Yeah, and that was it. Yeah.
Good. So for someone else, because everyone wants to go, I'm sure, because you've got your own property, you teach a lot of riders, and you've got people that start off, maybe not with you, but start off at your property as beginners and then ride through. Now, what character traits or what skills do they need that you might say, wow, I think this person's going to go a long way? What would you be looking for?
They have to be really naturally determined and naturally able to cope with disasters. Like a disaster can be the horse gets a foot abscess, you missed a comp. The horse puts its leg through a fence, it misses 6 months of work. So disasters can be big or small, and it's being able to absorb those and just go, okay, I really focus on the next goal that I had. So I need to go to these 3 events to get to that particular Pony Club State Championships or whatever it is. And if you don't get to those events for some reason and you miss out on qualifying for state championships, then you go and you focus on the next state championships instead. And I was always able to just go, oh, well, that didn't happen. what's next and look forward to the next thing and not dwell on what's happening now if it's all a bit sort of bad, because that can consume people a lot.
Yes.
And then you just get in a fog then. So that's a really strong trait. Obviously, there's got to be talented riders. And I say that, you know, you sort of, yes, you do, yes, you don't. Like, I was apparently fairly talented. I don't know how people actually saw that. I often felt like I couldn't fit trot, I had bad posture, I couldn't see a distance. So to me, that wasn't a very talented rider particularly, but I think because I was just so determined, and because I have a stutter, I was always really scared to ask people things. Like, I copied a lot of people. I copied a lot of riders that I liked. I watched a lot of videos and just sort of worked out how they were doing things and then worked out in my own head. So it's that sort of self-belief, I guess, and that ability to be talented or not talented, but see what's going on and learn from people around you as well. And not have to be told what to do every single step of the way. It's good to be told, but you've got to work it out on your own, because when you're out there galloping at top speed, at top level, no one's there to say, oh, half halt now. You've got to be able to do that.
Yep.
Effectively. Yeah.
And those videos of riders doing things that, you know, you wanted to watch those riders or other people who've influenced you, who were they?
Well, what it was, my grandparents lived in England, and they videoed on VHS videos, Olympia, Babington, Burley and Hickstead, and would send those tapes to us, and as kids we would just watch them over and over again. So it was Ian Stark, Lucinda Green, Ginny Elliott, Mark Todd, like all those guys riding, you know, those crazy big tracks on often some pretty feral horses. And you just watch it and just go, how do they get those fences? How do they sit? What are their hands like, you know? And then the Hickstead, you know, how they would get those big fences and their balance between the fences. I would just watch and analyse all of that.
That was very good of your grandparents, because it wasn't like you could jump on YouTube and have a look at those riders.
No.
That must have taken them.
No. I was just so lucky to have all those VHS videos, which I think my dad has now put onto hard drive. All those VHS videos from back then. Yeah.
Wow.
He spent about 18 months putting all our photos, their slides from their travels, all our home videos from us as kids and everything on hard drives for us. Yeah, that was a long process.
Gee, that's good.
We've
That's
got
good.
it all still. Yeah.
Okay, now you've talked about Gumtree, the horse that you thought that you're in the sky looking down at your parents.
Oh, yes.
You're probably thinking, who's Gumtree?
Yes.
What about other horses? Who do you think has had influence? I mean, obviously there's horses that you ride at big competitions. Has there been any other horses along the way that you particularly learned things?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I was really fortunate enough when I was 10, turning 11, just after World Champ, when I watched it in Agora, that next 12 months to be given. I had an Arab pony that I took up the junior, one star and Prince of Grade 1. So back then that was a mere 10 length, one star. He built in the 12th year. And I was 11 at the start of the season, turning 12 in November. And this little Arab horse let me, God knows how, take him up to Prince of Club Grade 1 and junior 1 star and compete him at that level when I was 11 years old. Then Gavin Ramsey retired his 3-star horse. We were just Teeny was his name, I think, and he gave him to me. And again, I was 11, turning 12 at the time. I couldn't get this thing on the bit to save myself. It was like 16.3 and about 27 foot long, but it jumped everything and just carted me around. So I was really fortunate at a really young age to have a couple of one horse that carted me around and the other Arab that had to kick around, like, hit it and kick it and, and gallop it and fences to sort of jump everything. And just being able to jump those tracks just made me a little bit sort of fearless, I think, and really set me up. And then we bought a 3-star horse for me for the grand sum of $7,000, which back then was like a lot of money. And I was 15. I managed to go 3-star on him my 18th year and jump around some big tracks. Again, I would sit on the arena on him crying because I could not sit top. Like if I had that horse now, it would win a gold medal. His name was Hats Away, and like just a phenomenal moving horse, phenomenal jumper. And I struggled on the flat with him though. I think he was a bit hot and bouncy, but would jump and was an amazing jumper again. And I got to ride those big tracks. And those guys were just the horses that really set me up with my bravery, my skills. And then I had a horse that broke in when I was about 15 as well. Really talented, offered like blank checks from George Sanner and Rod Brown. Didn't know what I was sitting on, obviously. We bought him as an 8-month-old colt. Broke with myself, was super careful, obviously. It was more of a show jumper. I managed to make it stop at oxes, stop at ditches and brushes, but then I had to learn how to make it jump again. And so I learned so many skills getting that horse back up to 3-star again. And in those days, the really big ditch and brushes, you could always jump through them long ways. So I get away with those jumping down the ditch and out the ditch. But then as the course was modernised a little bit, I could do that. And I retired in 3-star. I gave to my sister to ride. But I learned, again, so much about a stopping horse and how to work out their brain and the exercises to get through all that as well. So they were ones that really set me up.
And have there been, you talked about Gordon Ramsay or Gavin Ramsay and getting his retired 3-star, and I know your parents and grandparents have helped you a lot. Other people who've helped you along the way, who have they been?
Oh, back then, Gavin, he gave me lessons, and I had our vet's wife, Sue Luce. She taught me from when I was 10 to probably 15, twice a week, every Tuesday and Thursday. My mum kind of took me as far as she could, being a non-horsey mum and learning herself as well. And then she looked around and found Sue, who was BHS trained and very English and lots of lunge lessons, and obviously installed some really good basics in me as well. And she was great, but then she just stopped teaching to go have a family, which is kind of sad because then from that point onwards, I didn't really ever have a consistent coach. I mean, we talked about the clinics. Chris Bartle was out quite a bit back then, so I go to him every time he was over. Lucinda Green was over way back then, and she didn't come for a while. He's back coming again now to Australia. I only did a handful of clinics with her, and then I sort of met my dressage coach, who I still have lessons with now, when I was about, maybe 22 or 3.
So who's that?
Thomas Muhlenbeck, so the German guy from Queensland now. So I met him, he comes down to Adelaide quite a bit, and he's my main dressage coach. Some years I'll see him twice a year because I'll be away. Every time he's here, I could be away teaching myself, doing clinic or competing. Last year I got to see him about 4 or 5 times. So this year I could see him 4 or 5 times this year. I book in about 6 lessons every time on a few horses. And it's just been really good. Even though he's been inconsistently consistent with Thomas, but I just get him and he just works really, really, really well. And then show jumping wise, he's had a lot of lessons with George Sanner when he used to come down. And then, but the last, I wouldn't even know, probably for 10 years. 10 years probably, Jamie Coleman. And so he comes over quite a bit and have had some really good success with him too. And then being down where we are in SA, I do a lot of videoing of myself and watching it. We've just recently moved on the indoor. I've got mirrors for the first time in my life, and they are just like phenomenal. It's like, you've been on my life mirror in the indoor. It helps so much, makes life so much easier to self-train.
Yep. Now, I want you to think about your proudest moment. Has it been one proud moment or a few proud moments?
My proudest moment, everyone would say, has to be the Olympic Games and all that kind of stuff. But I actually think the Olympic Games, obviously, we won a silver medal as a team, and I placed 4th individually, and that's all fantastic. We actually lost the gold medal. We were in gold medal position after the dressage. So it took me like a while to actually come to terms with only winning a silver. And then when I finally got my head around, like, I'm meeting you, brat. Like, you may never get a chance like that ever again in your whole life. And you managed to get to the games and you managed to also win a medal and place 4th. That's pretty unreal. So actually, as a team, a little bit like cranky, actually, after the games for a while. But my proudest moment was winning the Narracourt Young Rider National Championships in '93. That's the most I've ever cried winning an event.
Yep.
I was just like, wow, that was just, to me, I just felt like I've made it. This is it. I've won a national champs on Hats, my grey horse that I couldn't sit on ever. And it just felt so good to win that.
Yeah.
And then when I won Adelaide on Jester in 2005, Irish Hallmark had just died about 3 weeks before that from a spider bite in the paddock. We had an anaphylactic reaction to something was down embedded in the paddock. And I won that, but I really felt like I won that for Paddy, and it was there with me, so I felt really proud to win it on Jester with Paddy there, and it was really sort of nice. I cried a lot for that, so I'm proudest I cried the most probably. So, yeah, and so that was, but getting on that Olympic team, like when they ring you up and say, Megan, you're on the team.
Yes.
And you're just like applaud.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, this is amazing, really amazing. And from that moment on, from the games, like the whole thing is like a bit of a, not a blur, but you don't remember much of it because you're so focused on doing your job. And I really had, someone said, I don't remember who it was, but someone has said, be really careful that you don't overtrain once you get to Hong Kong for us, not Beijing. Because we were there for 8 days prior to the vet shed.
Yep.
You did all the dressage riders, all the best riders in the world, all your heroes are there, you know, and I'm just meeting Jones from Harndorf on my homebred 15 3-hand pony, Jester, that I've only recently got on the bit properly because it's so hard to get him round and to get him to work on the flat. And I got there and was like, you know what, Megan, you've been picked on how good you are now. Do not try and make anything better because just maintain what you have and do what you know.
Yep.
And that was really important. I think you can get very overwhelmed. People do get overwhelmed at games and go into a weird sort of headspace. And it's keeping that in my mind. I was just so focused. I don't remember the crowds. I don't remember the cheering. I don't remember hardly anything from the games. It was really bizarre, but you just so focused on it. Yeah.
Now, what about, because you would have had challenges along the way, besides not just being able to get your horse on the bit, but other challenges, you know, sitting trot's hard, getting the horse on the bit's hard, but what else?
Breaking
what are the
them
challenges?
Down is hard. Oh, you break them down, you don't mean to do a tendon or a suspension ligament. Like Jester blew out both his front leg tendons. When was that? So 2003? Yeah, 2003. It was a brand new pro ride gallop track close to us, and I was galloping him or cantering. The hill was quite steep. Had his heart rate monitor on, and it went up pretty quickly at the top of the hill, quite high. Strange for him. And I walked back down again. It didn't drop below 100, like 32. And I went, that is really weird. Oh, so I jumped off, pulled his boots off, and there were 2 broken. I was like, what the hell? You've got to be kidding me. Yeah, so and that just sends you into a spin, but, you know, we just rehab it and use our equisage and lights that we use and do our stuff. And then by almost the same time next year, he was getting ready to run at Badminton in England, so the Florida Horses England, him and Paddy. And then Jester managed to do a check ligament grazing the paddock by showing at something and whacking himself behind the knee. Yep. And he was lame the entire time in England. Didn't get to do anything on him. Took Paddy to Badminton instead. He broke down his wing. He had a wound operation years before. That somehow, because they had a nerve graft, not a tie back, and somehow the nerve graft on the larynx had calcified and fractured his larynx. So to try and bring home 2 broken horses. And then thank God we did, because Mum just said, right, put it on the credit cards. We were planning on getting one on the team for Athens, you see, and then getting one of them flown home. That's the risk you take flying overseas, being not our team. And then we could afford to bring one home. And then we had 2 broken ones to bring home. She's like, well, let's put on the credit cards, get another credit card from the bank, put another credit card, put the 50 grand on the credit card and flew the 2 broken horses home. Yeah. And then, luckily we did, because that was 2004. Then I got Jester, he came 2004, and then by the next year, at Adelaide, we won Adelaide 2005, went to World Champs in 2006, went to Beijing in 2008, got on the team in 2010 for Kentucky, then he got kind of sick on the plane and almost died, so didn't get to ride the World Champs in Kentucky, you know, so so you have these, you get right at the top of the sport, and then the disasters keep on rolling at you, you know, and you just have to go, what's next? So I got to London, and then I was reserve, I get on the team, the Shane Horset lane, Floyd stepped on something at some point and punctured his soul, and on the second day we're in there, went excruciatingly lame, had to go out, had a press conference with the, you know, Olympics and stuff, and they're saying, you know, well, how are you dealing with it and what's next? And I'm like, well, this is done now. I'm getting married next year in January, so I guess I'll just go home and buy heaps of chairs and order a marquee and it's the next thing on my list, you know, and so you just keep moving forward.
Yep. No, I can get that in your conversations, you know, just work hard to be the best you can and just keep moving on. What's next? What's next on the list? What's the next goal? Move on, focus on that. Yep. Now, thinking about, you know, kids that learn to ride at your property and then they end up getting their own horse and carrying on, or even just common competition faults. What's a common fault that you see people do at competitions, and not necessarily at a high level, but it could be at a low level right through, that you think that they can learn from?
They aren't prepared enough. Mm-hmm. Even though they're sort of a coach, and they don't go through their dressage test enough, say. They don't visualise their cross-country course in their head well enough. They visualise having problems on cross-country, not visualise jumping the fence clear, you know, and it's really hard to go to a course and visualise jumping every fence perfectly. You know, you've got to feel it in your seat, in your hands, in your legs, what it's going to feel like coming into the fence, jumping it, galloping the corners, all that sort of stuff. And to teach the kids how to do that is like, it's quite an art, and for them to learn that. So quite often you go, 1, 2, 3, 4, there's the oxer, 3 strides there, there's fence 5, but they don't feel it in their entire body going over the whole course. That's a really important skill to have. And then, because then it also highlights to you what you haven't learned when walking the course enough. Like I'll go out on my big events and re-walk a fence that I am struggling with to visualise and feel it properly. And visualise the line 100%. I'll go back out there in the morning and walk that line, go away, close my eyes, do the whole course again and swap that fence back in there again, how it should be jumped. And I've really got to make sure I do that. And then and practice this in the chest. It's like not just going over and over the chest until the horse anticipates it, but it's warming up in your arena and then going out and trying to ride that chest in a imaginary arena out in the paddock. So you're going from one area to another area, and your horse is a bit upset doing that. Even at home, you'll get distracted by the donkeys next door or something, and you've got to learn to cope with that, because that's what's going to happen at the competition. And they get a bit blinded by being like home blind, or they call it in America barn blind. I'm really good at home, and I get the competent horse doesn't listen to me enough. But because it's not actually working at home on your aids enough, you know, they've got to be able to put the pressure on them, take the pressure off them, and actually you don't avoid conflict at home with the horse. You actually go, okay, you don't like that? Let's work out how to make you more supple so you can do that movement. And then when you get to go and ride your test and they get excited once they're out, you know what they're going to do and you know how to deal with that. They're the biggest two things, I think. And then obviously constantly show jumping nerves, because most eventers hate show jumping. Like so many of them are so scared of show jumping, which is so bizarre because they fall down. But people are terrified. So it's being able to cope with those nerves as well. And there's no other way to practice that than just be able to go in there and know your track, walk the course, know it, and know your horse.
That's good. Now, you teach your own riders, your own students about visualisation?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, I think that's good. I think that there seems to be a bit of a gap, you know. I think that while it's recognised it's so important, a lot of coaches are so focused on the job that they don't realise the benefit in the actual teaching visualisation.
Absolutely. No, it's a huge thing. And when I'm teaching, I use my phone a lot to video what they're doing, good or bad. and then show them, and they're like, oh, and really I'm not on the track at all. Or I said, no, you're not on the track.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
they can't see or feel, or they turn to a fence too early.
Yes.
You put cones out for them, but they still don't recognise it without the cones there. So you video it, and they're like, oh, I've got that. So the visual aspect for all riders is a huge thing, and if they can, then I turn that conversation into visualising the turn and starting in small steps like that before saying, right, now visualise the whole course, all 25 fences.
Yep.
But you just do it step by step with them and trying to start young with them as well.
Okay, that's good.
Oh, hang on a sec. Let me interrupt to let people know about the horse industry qualifications at onlinehorsecollege.com. If you have a look at the flexible options, there's online theory and the practical components can be completed by video or with a qualified expert in your area. That website again is onlinehorsecollege.com. Okay, thanks.
Now, we talked about you videoing on the phone, sort of using technology to complement what people are learning riding-wise. Have you got a book or something else that you can use to complement people? Yep.
A book, you said?
Yes, please. Any book that you could recommend for our listeners.
Oh, no. I mean, actually, no, there is a really good book for people about, and again, people are stuck for what to do at home on their own quite often. So they don't have a training plan, a plan of what they want to achieve each time they ride. They end up riding around in circles and going, well, that wasn't very helpful. So there are these books called 101 just like exercises, 101 jumping exercises.
Okay.
And it's 101, it's a great big, art folder type book with all these exercises in it, how to ride. And they're very simple. And some take lots of equipment, some take not much equipment at all to set up. And you just go, right, well, today I'm going to do this jumping exercise. You go and set it up and you walk it out, you learn what your pace is. And if you're on your own, you're going to have to problem solve doing that as well. And if a dressage one say, right, I do this one, okay, that seemed pretty good. Now I'll link it to this exercise over here as well. So people on their own can just link things together as well, and all exercises at some point are good for a horse.
Yep.
There's not really a bad exercise for a horse, really.
Okay, cool. All right, now, what are you looking forward to now? What does your future hold?
We have got World Champs next year in September, and so Candy, Coupart Impress just came second to Adelaide in a 4-star for her first attempt. I was so proud of her. Another little homebred horse, a stock horse thoroughbred cross. We're aiming her towards World Champs. We'll go to Sydney, the CIC in February, the Tottenham Bucks for a CIC in March, back up to Camden for a CIC in April, and then back up to Sydney end of April for the 3-day event. Who wants to spend 10 grand on fuel? I do. But that's just the reality of it. I've got to travel from SA. I've got to travel a lot to get to the good events, to compete against the right people as well. Like I could do a 3-star here in SA and compete against myself. That's, you still want to finish on a good score, but there's not much pressure on you, you know, to win that class, only person in it. So I travel a lot to compete with the rest of the good guys and go to Sydney 3-day, and with most of the riders who are aiming from Australia to go to WEG will be at Sydney, and then Melbourne is sort of a backup 3-day event for selection if something goes wrong at Sydney. So like this year I went to Sydney as my qualifier to get to Adelaide 4-star. I jumped through the water at fence 8. She sort of jumped to the big hedge, the skinny hedge coming out, mixed it and jumped the side, and felt like she had no power at all. The reason she had no power was the breastplate had broken on the girth, and her saddle had slipped back. There's no elastic in the breastplate. It was like choking her and restricting her shoulders, and I was sitting on her loins. I'm like, well, you really couldn't have jumped up the hill over that giant, skinny brush fence on there. So I had to walk home.
Yep. And
so I went to Melbourne instead of my backup 3-day event to qualify for Adelaide, So you always have to have that backup event.
Yes.
So that's our goal from now to April, is to get her sound and strong and nice and fit. I should say fit and strong and keep her sound. That's that way around. And then bring the young horses through. And I haven't got a huge team of horses, so they've got a nice small amount of horses now. And then get James, my husband, doing better dressage test on his horse this season as well coming. He's got a cracker of a horse, it's a bit noisy on the flat, so and to get James to ride more than once every 2 weeks, that'll be a really good goal, and that way he might actually improve on the flat as well. And then he just is so time poor with a list that I give him that never seemed to end, which is more his problem. He's got jobs to do. But then Tokyo after that, so yes, we're sort of got a big program for the next sort of 3 years, really.
I see, I thought right through your interview that your goal setting came in, but no, you're really good with your goal setting. You've got it worked out.
Yes.
And I'm sure that if anything, same thing. Oh, well, that's not going to work. I'll move on to the next one. Good.
You have to have a few plans in place. And I'm a very visual person, so I get like a big sort of desk calendar with 1 month, really, like it's a huge big calendar thing with big squares for every day.
Yep.
And I can see what every month is having, like where I am, where I'm teaching clinics. I can't do one there, it's too close to that 3-day event, and plan everything out, roll the horse out, which events they're doing. It's all in pencil, so I change it, rub it out and change it, and away we go. I hate writing in pen because then you can't change things.
Yep.
It's a strange mental thing for me.
When you went to school, did you learn to ride with a pencil or a pen?
Pencil to start with, and then pen, yeah. But being dyslexic as well, the whole sort of computer, I can just do with my calendar on the phone.
Yep.
But try and deal with the calendar on the computer and that sort of stuff. It just gives you like a raised heart rate, and really I have a small panic attack about it.
Yep.
I can't deal with it at all because it just seems so foreign to me, like to just see it all like that in front of me.
Yes.
And I'm very clear that in my mind what needs to be done. Yeah.
Brilliant. Now, Megan, can you sum up your philosophy into a lesson today for our listeners?
Philosophy. It's interesting you asked me to do that, because I've always often thought about doing a DVD or writing a book or doing something like that of my training things and putting everything into together.
Yep.
And the thought of trying to put that all into like
one or two sentences.
It freaks me out. Yeah. There's so many sides to everything. But I just guess at the end of the day, it's like you never, ever, ever give up, because things are going to go south all the time.
Yep.
And if you are affected by that emotionally a bit too much, it's hard to bounce back from that. And I can say that so flippantly and so easily because that's just the way I am. But for other people, they get really emotionally invested in things and can really upset them when things go wrong. I do believe I have a small slashing of Asperger's in me, because having a stutter when I was a kid, I was a bit deaf and had a lazy eye and had eye surgery. So a whole pile of small things, that weren't wrong with me but weren't normal. And my ability just to move on from a disaster, go, okay, what's next? James, my mum, always just go to me, you're a bit harsh, Megan, really, you're a bit softer sometimes. But I think you have to have a bit of that to be resilient.
Yes.
And you've got to have that bit of a stiff upper lip and a bit like girls don't cry. It's all very non-PC, but you have to have that.
Yep.
You've got to be tough. If you're not tough, you absolutely will not make it to top level. And you've got to believe in your horse, be absolutely in love with your horse as well, and not treat them like a machine, because you put your life in their hands, jumping these big fences, and you've got to know that you can absolutely trust them. And if you're going up a grade, even if from grade 4 to grade 3 in pony clubs, up to 87 metres, and it's still not very big fences, but you've got up that grade, if you have any doubts about your horse in trusting them, they will feel that. So you have to go, okay, well, I'm still doubting things. I need to train better. I need to get help with this, good coaching, or work it out yourself, or practice that thing that freaks you out on that horse 100 and hundreds of times. So, yeah, you've got to be tough. You've got to never give up. Love and trust your horse, because you guys are the partnership out there.
Yep.
And, and kids, say thanks to your parents. Because we're all guilty of not being nice enough to our parents and taking for granted what they do for us in that sport, like carting us around and all the rest of it. But I tell you what, my parents just put so much effort into me, like just huge amount, and you can never thank them enough, really. And I certainly didn't at the time. Guilty of that, 100%. So it's and that team, and also there's so many things, so I can't just break it down to a few small ones. If you've got people around you that are cutting you down, friends that don't like you being successful or winning an event, who cut you down, you cut them out of your life.
Yep.
They're not your friend. Because that will drag you down. And I see it over and over again. And with social media, oh my God, it drives me crazy. The kids can be, like on Messenger, and there's just these snide comments, and I had none of that, and growing up and the rest of it. And I was that little stuttering blonde one that couldn't talk with a Coke bottle glasses at school. I should have been torn apart, and I wasn't. So I was just lucky. And so, you just got to always put yourself in the right environment to succeed.
Yep. Megan, I think that's some really good lessons. It's not just one thing. There were quite a few good lessons there that people can use, and good life lessons, I think they were good.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
And don't ask Megan to something doesn't do sentences.
No, that's okay. Yeah.
For someone who started to can't talk, I definitely talk a lot.
Megan, how can people contact you?
By email. It's Megan at Kirby Park. I haven't changed my email yet, so it's KIRBYPARK, so kirbypark.com.
Okay.
Or just on Facebook, so it's Megan Jones, and also I've got Megan Jones' eventing team as well.
All right, and also those contact details will be on your page at Horse Chats, which will be horsechats.com/Megan Jones. Okay, so Megan, it's been really good talking to you. I've really, really enjoyed your goal setting. I think you're just so focused. And, when I asked what your future holds, you didn't just go, oh, well, maybe. You said, no, I've got this and this and this and this and this. And you're very positive and very motivated. And we certainly wish you the best of luck in everything that you're doing. And we'll be looking forward to catching up with you soon anyway.
Well, thank you very much.
Thanks for talking to us today. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Oh, wait, before you go, if you're an equestrian coach or a horse riding instructor, or even if you aspire to be one, have a look at the free video series for horse riding instructors on the Horse Chats website. Go there now, have a look, horsechats.com.
Remember that our comments and instructions are general in nature and do not take into consideration your individual horses or your individual ability and circumstances. If you enjoyed this podcast, then please leave your comment below.